afternoon and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for our annual SeaTac Airport Luncheon. My name is Andrea Ray, and on behalf of the staff and Chamber Board, I want to welcome you to this event. And it is now my honor and distinct privilege to welcome Brooke Vathauer, from the Vice President of Strategic Performance for Alaska Airlines, where she leads the airline's growing hometown hub here at SeaTac. I'm also honored to serve with her on the board at Port Jobs. Brooke is a champion for Alaska's guests and employees as they continue to grow their operations here at home, and especially during COVID, we're a key leader in ensuring the guest experience remained safe and exceptional. She is also a fellow Husky alum, so please welcome Brooke to the stage. Podium.
Thank you so much, Andrea, and it's so nice to see you and so many other people here in person. Thank you so much for your promotion of the vaccine. It's so important for public health and just our economy's continued recovery, so thank you for that. Hello, everybody. It's really, I can't even remember the last time I spoke to a group in person like this, so this is pretty exciting today. We are very proud at Alaska Airlines to be sponsoring today's luncheon, and we look forward to hearing from the airport's managing director, Lance Lyttle, here in just a little bit. But before I introduce Lance, I'd like to take just a few minutes to share a bit about our operation and some exciting updates for our guests here in Seattle and across our network. As you know, and as I'm sure Lance will speak to, this past year and a half has been incredibly challenging for airlines, airports, and the travel industry as a whole. Over that time, we've worked closely with airport leaders to ensure the health and safety of our guests. And in Alaska, we also partnered very closely with medical experts at the University of Washington to implement more than 100 safety measures across our operation to keep our guests and our employees safe. We've seen a strong return to travel in the past several months with the rollout of the vaccine. If you guys have been downstairs or through the concourse, it is busy, and sometimes it is elbow to elbow out there. And in fact, our operation here in Seattle has rebounded to 2019 levels, and we're making important investments to continue improving the experience here for Alaska guests. Earlier this year, we were proud to announce our entry into the One World Global Alliance. As a member of One World, Alaska joins 13 of the best airlines in the world to provide guests with connectivity to nearly 1,000 destinations around the globe, a seamless travel experience, and more valuable loyalty offerings. With this new global partnership, Seattle, this airport, is now the fastest growing One World airport in the country, which I think is really cool. And we're excited to see brand new international service come online here in Seattle with One World partners like Qatar and American Airlines, taking advantage of Alaska's strong domestic network here up and down the West Coast and all over the US. We were also proud to celebrate the opening of the newly expanded North Satellite Facility recently in partnership with the Port of Seattle. Some of you joined us 2 years ago for the grand opening of Phase 1 and the opening of our signature lounge out there on the North Sat, and we're thrilled to see Phase 2 completed and ready to serve our guests. It looks absolutely fabulous out there. It's light, bright area. It's just a fabulous experience for our guests. Looking ahead, we are partnering with the port to develop more efficient and cost-effective ways to design and build important capital projects to further improve the guest experience. One such project that I am extremely excited about is the North Main Terminal Redevelopment Program, which will transform that north lobby downstairs, that ticketing area, to improve passenger processing and security screening and elevate the overall passenger experience for our guests. The renderings of this are phenomenal looking, and I think it's just going to be a really wonderful modern experience for passengers here at SeaTac. I know that Lance will have updates on these and other developments at the airport, so now let me take a moment to introduce him and welcome him to the podium. Lance Lyttle has served as the Managing Director of SeaTac International Airport since 2016, where he oversees airport operations, leads capital development projects, manages agreements with airlines, tenants, and more. Prior to coming to Seattle, Lance served as the Chief Operating Officer for Houston's 3 airports, and before that as Assistant General Manager of Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport in Atlanta. Over the past year, Lance has worked closely with Alaska to support health and safety initiatives for travelers and employees here at SeaTac, and his responsiveness in managing costs in line with the reduced passenger traffic has played a critical role in our ability to quickly bring service levels back up here at SeaTac. We are grateful to Lance for the important work he has done to partner with us on improving customer experience at Seattle over the years. I am personally very grateful for the partnership, Lance, so I thank you very much. And with that, I am pleased to welcome Lance to the podium.
Thank you very much, Brooke. So I'm going to be giving an overview of what we've been doing since the pandemic. So I think we did a virtual presentation last year, right, Andrea, sometime during the pandemic. So some of these slides you will see, but a lot of it will be, the presentation will be updates that's happening. So we're going to talk about what we did to weather the storm. We're going to also speak about what we did to lead the recovery efforts in this region. And there are some really interesting upcoming projects. Brooke mentioned some of them, so I'm going to speak about some of those projects as well. And then what's next? What are some of the things that we're going to do as we adjust to this new norm or the next norm that we're facing? So weathering the storm. As Brooke mentioned, the pandemic was really bad. We thought the Great Recession and 9/11 were probably the 2 worst disruptors that we've seen in aviation. But as you can see from this chart, even when you take both of them together, the pandemic was worse than both of them combined. So it was very impactful to us in the industry. We call this the bowling ball picture. This is what the airport looked like last year, right? You could literally roll a bowling ball through the airport, chances are you would not hit anyone. So it was really bad. Just give you some updates. We ended up at about 61% decline relative to 2019 in traffic. International traffic got hit really bad, 76%, right? We actually went from being the 8th busiest airport, we dropped 2 places, so we're now the 10th busiest airport going forward. Cargo was kind of our saving grace. There was a significant reduction in cargo, at a 33% reduction in international cargo. But ironically, domestic cargo increased. We had a 15% increase in domestic cargo. And so overall, we came at about, we broke even. And that's because domestic cargo is like twice the amount of international cargo that we had. So cargo was kind of like the saving grace. Everything else really declined significantly. And the reason why we had that significant drop in international cargo, a lot of the international cargo is actually travels in what we call the belly of the airplane, the passenger airplane. So there was not a lot of passenger airplanes going overseas, so we didn't have a lot of overseas or international cargo taking place. So again, as you can see the numbers, it was a major impact here at the airport. Our first priority in weathering the storm, first priority was, of course, the health and safety of our employees and the people who work at the airport. So if you did not have to be at the airport, we teleworked, you could work from home. We also wanted to make sure that all the airport, the tenants and the businesses that conduct operations at the airport, they were able to weather the storm. So what we did, we provided rent relief, we provided lease extension, and we eliminated MAG, minimum annual guarantee, for several of our businesses at the airport for a period of time. And this was to help them to survive. We knew that some of the bigger companies, the airlines, some of the major concessionaires such as Hudson, Host, SSP, they may be able to weather the pandemic, but some of the mid and smaller businesses, they probably would not. And if we did not provide this type of assistance, then many of these companies would fail and they would probably never ever return. So it was important to actually help these companies. But the first thing we had to do is, like when the analogy uses, when you're on an airplane and if the pressure goes, if you have a pressurization problem, they say put your mask on first before you try to help anyone. So we had to make sure we put our mask on first. We had to look at our cash flows, We had to look at all the resources that we have and how much we could help, right? Because we didn't want to start helping everybody and then we got into trouble. So we were very careful. Cash flow was extremely important during this period. And we started what we called our Fly Healthy at SCA. And the objective here was to restore confidence in travel. If people decided and when they decided to travel, we wanted to ensure that they understood all the things that we're doing here at the airport, working with the airlines, working with all the tenants, to ensure that they were operating or they were entering into a space that was as clean, as safe, as healthy, as sanitized as possible. And that was one of the major objectives of our Fly Healthy at FCA. Some of you may have seen some of these already, so I'm going to go through them really fast. We were all facing this pandemic for the first time, but the one thing we identified early is that there was no silver bullet, right? There was not going to be any one solution, right? So we had a multi-layered approach. As you can see, we had face coverings, hand sanitizers, touchless technology, all of these things we tried to get in place, right, to ensure that we were not contributing to the spreading of COVID-19, right? So, leading the recovery. It was very important to us to take a lead role in the recovery because we are a $22.5 billion impact in this region. We come from more than 150,000 jobs. We come from more than 440 million in state and local taxes. So we know we had to play a key role in leading the recovery. I'm going to touch on two other areas. One of them was our capital development program, and the other was vaccination. So we looked at all the major capital projects that we had going on, and there were two things that we really wanted to ensure that we did. One was we didn't want to get into this cycle that had happened before during other disruptions where all the projects at an airport, like for example during 9/11 or during the Great Recession, they stopped. And then when the traffic came back, we didn't have the facilities to accommodate the recovery. And so instead of being 2 years behind the curve, we're now 5 years or 10 years behind the curve. So we decided that we're going to continue with some of these projects. But we just didn't do it all willy-nilly. It was structured. We looked at how some of these projects were funded, whether it was grant funded, bond funded, port cash, right, or a combination thereof. And we looked at which one of these projects we could continue without impacting, for example, our cash flows. The other thing that was important to us in leading the recovery is that there are thousands of jobs that are associated with these projects. Right? As you can see, they're very large projects. Thousands of jobs that are associated with these projects. And what we really wanted to do was to maintain as many jobs as possible during the pandemic because people are losing jobs left, right, and center. We really wanted to make sure that we actually maintain these thousands of jobs, direct and indirect jobs here at the airport. So these are there are hundreds of projects taking place. These are four of the big ones. And Brooke mentioned the North Satellite modernization. I'll just show you, this is a time lapse of that project, right? That's taking place. This added more than 250,000 square foot to the facility here. And as you look at this picture, just imagine all of these construction jobs associated with this, but also all the indirect jobs, people having to provide supplies, etc. People who did the design, the planning for this facility. And also, the people who work on this, they go to the concessionaires, they go to the supermarket. So the economic impact, the direct, indirect, and induced economic impact for these projects. And this is just one of the projects that we're talking about. So it was very important. Even just putting up this artwork, this is Boundary by John Grady. Just put up this, just imagine the amount of jobs associated with this, right in the midst of a pandemic when there are lots of people out there not having a job, right? So it was very important. And this is just a visual. The first phase that Brooke mentioned, this is actually the first phase that we had done. And this is another art piece here. It's called Cathedral. Right here, art is very important to us. This is Boundary by John Grady. It's actually 40 feet high, 25 feet deep, and it's 85 feet wide. It's a spectacular piece of art that you will see, and you'll see maybe in the next slide. This is just coming up the escalator into the North Satellite. And for those of you who remember what the North Satellite looked like, back in the day, this is a totally different level of service that you're experiencing here. Now, as you can see, some of the concessions is not finished as yet, right? All the gates are open in this facility. This is Cathedral. I think it's Metz and Chu. Those are the artists that did the artwork. And this is the elevator that takes us up. This is Canopy by, I think it's Krista Birnbaum. This is the latest piece of art that we have in there, and this is great. This is Black Leaf by Deborah Buttersfield. This is a very popular piece of art as well in that facility. As you can see, we have temporary kiosks as well in the facility here because all the concessions are not in place yet, but we're trying to ensure that we still provide the level of service that our passengers expect. This is going to be the marketplace. At N, there is a taco bar that right behind here that's going to be open very soon. And right in the middle, you'll see some people sitting. This is actually a stage for the performing arts. So we're going to have performances here. And upstairs, we're going to have Wendy's downstairs. We're going to have PF Chang's upstairs and other concessions in that area. Somebody said we should have karaoke every Friday. It's going to be a really popular area once we are finished. Again, concessions, all the concessions are not in as yet, but again, night and day, the old facility versus the new facility. And this is the standard that would like the entire airport to look like going forward. International arrival facility, I'm just going to touch on this real quickly because you guys are going to do a tour, so you're going to see everything. Is a brand new 450,000 square foot facility for international arrivals. This is the bag claim area. You're going to hear about the artwork as well. Charles is going to take you guys through. And this is where immigration and custom. We are going to be the first major airport that has what we call bags first. So typically you go to immigrations, then you go get your bags, then you go through customs. You're just going to get your bags now and just go through immigration and custom one shot. So it's going to be a far more efficient process, and you have a totally different experience. But I'm not going to speak too much because Charles is going to take you through the entire facility. The other thing that we did, we actually converted this conference room because we had nothing going on here. We converted it to a clinic, and we had vaccinations taking place. In fact, I got my vaccination right in here, in this room that we're standing right now. So we converted it. It's again part of us leading the recovery effort. So, upcoming project, Brooke mentioned some of them. C1, those of you who are familiar with the airport, if you go to the C1 area, gate C1, there's literally no space, there's no hold room space in that area. We're going to be renovating this space in its entirety. But also this building is going to be LEED Silver certified. And sustainability is going to be a key component. It will look nice, but sustainability is going to be a key component of the design and the construction of this facility as well. And just show you a few rendering of what it will look like on the inside. This is what it's going to be look like. It's like a marketplace concept where you can actually sit down. There's going to be a stage here for the performing arts. There's going to be a solarium. You can actually view the mountain ranges, etc. You're going to be like literally like outside, looking at the outside, especially on a nice summer day, winter day. Summer days might be really nice. But again, the facility is going to look totally different than what you're seeing right now. So that's the C1. Brooke mentioned the North Terminal renovation. That's primarily where Alaska is. If you walk from the Gina Marie Hall, the south end of the terminal, as you go to the north, it progressively, unfortunately, gets, not so nice. So we really not only need to upgrade the aesthetics, but also, more importantly, the functionality and efficiency of that facility. So we're working very closely with Alaska Airlines, and this is one rendering, one concept. There are several others, as Brooke mentioned, that we're looking at. So we're not sure exactly what it will look like when it's finished, but it's going to look 100 times better than it does now, and it will be far more efficient as well. So that's the north end, or the North Terminal renovation. Parking guidelines, we can't wait for this to be finished. We're upgrading our parking revenue control system. There's going to be about 5 phases. Phase 1 is going to be completed the beginning of next year. And not only will you have more parking functionalities, but you will actually know exactly how many parking spaces are available in the garage, and you'll know exactly where they are. So rather than having to circle around to find a spot, you'll actually see a light which says green, and wherever green is, there's a parking space. You can just go there and park. So we're looking forward to getting that completed as well. And then the South Satellite. So remember what the North Satellite looked like? The South Satellite pretty much looks like that now. So the level of service that we have there is nowhere near where we wanted it. That's going to be our next major project. We're going to be renovating the entire South Satellite facility. It's going to take us a few years, But as you can see from the rendering, it's going to really look something like the North Satellite. Again, it's our objective to have what we call a level of service optimal throughout the entire airport, and South Satellite is going to be the next major project. So let me talk about some of the things, what's next. As you can see, the traffic is actually coming back a whole lot faster than we had anticipated. And there are predictions that by 2027, 26 is when we're going to get back to pre-pandemic numbers. But as you can see, we're getting there much faster. Not sure what's going to happen with the Delta variant, if it's going to impact anything, but based on the trajectory that we're looking at right now, it's probably more like 2024 that we'll get back there. And this is actually outdated because we've had several days where we have more than 50,000 people coming through the security checkpoint. In fact, the day before yesterday, I think we had more than 50,000. And that's just coming through the checkpoint. If you add people that are connecting or people that are, their destination is here, you're talking about 140,000 people through the airport, right? So again, this chart really shows how fast we're coming back. If it wasn't for people maybe having masks on in November, if we don't have masks on, you wouldn't know the difference between 2019 and 2021 in terms of the number of people that you're going to see at the airport. So it's really coming back. So on the international side, as I said, there was a 76% decrease in international traffic. We have about 60% of the original pre-pandemic services back in place right now, so that's good. We're hoping to get to 80% by the end of the year. That's a tall order. It depends on what the government does. Government in this country and other countries does in terms of lifting restrictions. The saving grace though was Mexico. We actually had more flights into Mexico this year than we did during 2019. More flights into Mexico. Everywhere else was down, Mexico was up. And you might see ANA on Nippon Airlines, great out here, but they're actually here, but we didn't add them to the list because they don't have regular scheduled flights. They have a few flights per month, etc. So as mentioned earlier, the region is still very, very attractive, right? WestJet just announced, you might have seen the announcement this morning, they're going to start flights from here to Calgary in November of this year, and of course we have Qatar that started this year. So the region is still very, very attractive to airlines and to passengers. So again, this was a ball and ball picture. This is more what it looks like today. So the passengers are coming back. And so what are some of the things that we want to do, right? We want to ensure that your trip is as predictable as possible. So strategy-wise, that we're focusing on. How can we make your trip as predictable as possible? So we have our parking reservation system. So you can actually pre-book your parking before you come to the airport. Right? We also have what we call Spot Saver. You can actually reserve your space in line now before you come to the airport. Right? And you can actually order your food before you come to the airport or while you're at the airport without actually joining online. So we're trying to make your journey as predictable as possible. So let me just talk about those just real quickly. So pre-book, again, you can go online or you can use our app and you can book your parking before you come to the airport. Right? You can book whether it's general parking or it's direct parking, which is on the 4th floor. You can pay for your parking. You get a barcode that's sent to you. Come to the airport, you scan your barcode. You're in, you park. You get on your flight. You don't have to interact with anyone. You don't have to go to any machine. Right? Once your flight is finished, again, you scan, you're gone. You don't have to go to a pay-and-foot machine or anything like that. So again, we're trying to make that predictable. Now once you have parked, you're like, okay, but what about your security lines? We've heard complaints that traveling is for the privileged. Yes, if you're a business class, you go to the business class line while we're in these long lines. If you can afford pre-check, you pay for pre-check, and you're in the pre-check line while we wait in this line, the general screening. So what we did, we know what we call Spot Saver, and Spot Saver is for general boarding. So you can make your reservation. Just imagine you're going to a restaurant, you make a reservation for your table, and you go when it's time, your table is ready. Or you go to a restaurant that doesn't have a reservation, but instead of joining a line, they give you a buzzer right? And they said, when it's time for you, your table is ready, we'll buzz you. That's exactly, those are the two things we're doing here. So you can reserve your line before, you can say, I want to go join the line between 8 and 8:15. And you have your reserved space on the line. Or if you come, you can do a scan, and then you can actually, it will tell you it's time to join the line. So you don't have to join the line. And then guess what? It's free. You don't have to sign up for anything. There's no subscription or anything like that. It's free, and it's for general boarding passengers as well. It says here that it's at checkpoint 2 and 5. We're doing it at checkpoint 5 with Alaska, checkpoint 2 with all the other airlines, but it's also now at checkpoint 3, so this is a bit outdated. So pretty much those 3 checkpoints you can use. The other checkpoints are pre-check, so if you have pre-check, you really don't need this. So it's been an overwhelming success. A few weeks ago when I checked, we had about 90,000 people that have used it. Already, the surveys that we have done, we get maybe like over 90% favorable response from the people that have used it. Very, very successful. It's a pilot that we're doing. It runs between 4 a.m. in the morning and 12 noon. We're going to evaluate at the end of August, but just based on the feedback, we're hoping this is something that we can actually make permanent. And then, okay, so now what about food? Likewise, you can order your food actually before you come to the airport. You can order it while you're at the airport. You can order it online. You can have it delivered to you at your gate from several restaurants that will pop up once you scan that QR code. And you can have it delivered to you, or you can go and pick it up. Like when I'm at the airport, I'm in a rush, I just order it, walk, pick it up, wherever it is at, whichever restaurant has participated in this. And then I think our objective is to have this for all the restaurants throughout the airport. I think last time I used it, there was about 9 or 10 restaurants participating. So it's really good. You could be on concourse, the Southside light, and you want McDonald's, which is on B, and you order it and it's delivered. So, you don't like McDonald's? And our app, again, have a lot of information in there, right? So you can use our app anytime you want, right? You can flight information that you need, direction. The app will even tell you where sanitizers are throughout the airport. It's that detailed. So all of this information is readily available. As I mentioned earlier, we were able to provide assistance to a lot of the tenants at the airport, and one of the primary reasons was the amount of relief that we got from the federal government. So there were 3 different federal acts that helped us: CARES, CRISA, ARPA. We lobbied very hard, and we got a lot of support from our congressional delegation. Thank you, congressional delegation. We got $10 billion the first time as an industry. We got $4 billion, and then we got $8 billion. Our airport, we got $192 million first, then we got we got $37 million, and then $5 million for concessionaires, and then the last ARPA, we got $154 million and $21 million for concessionaires. So sounds like a lot of money, and it is, but it doesn't make us whole, because in 1 year alone we lost $350 million, and we're going to lose a whole lot of money again this year. So it helped a whole lot, but it didn't make us whole, but it allowed us to provide relief to a lot of our tenants here at the airport. And then we're actually demobilizing. Once the governor announced that we're open in the state, there are certain things that we started doing, like removing a lot of the floor decals. There's about 8,000 of these. 8,000 of these throughout the airport that we had to remove. Right, so it really is a lot of work. We're still wearing masks, but there are certain things that we are changing at the airport in terms of demobilization. Now, it's really nice to talk about all the great things that's taking place and the growth that's roaring back, but we cannot forget that as the airport grows, we have neighboring communities that are negatively impacted by the airport. And so START, which is our stakeholder advisor roundtable, we work very closely with the 6 neighboring airports, the airlines, and the FAA to try to do actions or policies to actually minimize the negative impact of the airport on the neighboring community. There's noise impact, there is pollution impact, and these are real. And so we have to work very closely. So we do that via START. Our master plan, real quickly, Sustainable Airport Master Plan, we're in the environmental review phase right now. We expect to have a draft and the ability for the public to comment on this fall this year, Claire, keep me straight, fall ish, so we'll be able to do that. And I think we're planning to do a lot of presentations as well to the members of the chambers as well, detailed presentations to members of the chambers, so that's coming up. And okay, my last slide is we are going to host the annual AAAE conference next year here in Seattle. AAA is the American Association of Airport Executives. It's one of the biggest aviation conferences in the nation. We're going to have about 2,500 people coming here for that conference. So they had the annual conference this year in Las Vegas, and we went to promote our region, and there's a promotional video that we did here, thanks to Visit Seattle for some of the footages that we have here. So I'll just show you the video that we used to promote our region. This is it.
Welcome to the Evergreen State. Welcome to the Emerald City. Welcome to Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. Welcome back after the longest year ever. It is time to remember what you love. We weathered the storm and we're leading the recovery. We live on the edge. Here, green means go. From our coast to our kitchens, adventure awaits you. Eat your heart out. Drink our wine. Shop local. Rock to our beat or create your own. Discover our culture as you discover our commerce. That latte you love, we made it. That plane you fly on, we built it. That package you ordered, we sent it. Let us be your first impression and your last memory. The journey begins now. See you in Seattle.
Thank you. That concludes I am 1 minute over, so that concludes my presentation. Thank you, guys. Now for the hard part.
Right, the questions, this one, I think this isn't working, so I'm just gonna use my loud projection voice. Everybody can hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So thank you, University of Washington Drama Department. I have learned to project with my diaphragm. And we are ready for taking your questions. So any questions that you might have for Lance, text them to my phone. I have my phone right here ready to receive any questions you might have. We've got about 13 minutes for questions. And they are already coming in. People know the drill, so even after 18 months, they remember. You showed a lot of opportunities to pay to park or to reserve your spot for the, the security line, also ordering food. Is there an app for that, or is it just a website that people go to?
So we have the airport app itself, and from the airport app, you can actually you can do your parking reservations from the app. The food itself, we don't have a specific app for that. You scan your Q code, your barcode, or we're working on an app.
It's in the SAA app too.
Right, it's in the airport app, but we don't have a separate app. Right, so we have our airport app that you can access all of these that I've shown. But if you don't want to download the app as an example for the food, you can just scan your QR code and you'll get the information on it. Likewise, for the reservation as well, you scan your QR code or you go online. Actually, when you book your airline flight, like on Alaska, for example, they'll actually send you a reminder and you can make your reservation.
Perfect. Awesome. Next question. You showed a lot of really exciting, oh, bless you. Marco, everybody, Marco. Exciting opportunities to help showcase local artists in a lot of the new facilities. How does the airport go about booking or scheduling, artists? How do we sign up for karaoke night?
So, so we have well, let me talk first about the visual art. So we have an art committee. We have an art manager, I'm not sure if you're Tommy Gregory, but we have an art committee as well. And the art committee are the ones that actually select the art that we use throughout the airport. Of course, we try to promote local artists, but we also, because we're an international airport, so we look nationwide or worldwide for artists as well. Our performing arts program was delayed recently because of the COVID pandemic. We actually tried to still assist our artists. We had a video board where we actually showed artists performing, and you could actually give tips virtually, etc. So we did that. We're hoping to start the program back soon. This is not in our head. And we have a committee again for the performing arts. We really focus on our local performers here. So there's a committee that goes around to make those selections. If you're interested, Dawn Hunter is right here, so send her an email.
Raise your hand, Tom.
Raise your hand.
Awesome, thank you so much. Another question, due to the pandemic, what projects did you not continue or move forward with, if any?
Not very much. We looked at most of the projects that we were on. There are some projects that were delayed. I can't recall of any projects that were canceled per se, but there were some projects that were delayed, but most of the major projects, as you saw, we moved forward with. A lot of these projects are bond funded, as an example, so like holding back or stopping didn't make a lot of sense. Plus, again, it was important for us to keep people employed during the pandemic. That was one of the major objectives that we and the commissioners had.
Perfect, thank you so much. Next question, what are your thoughts on the role that air travel should play for climate change? What role for airports, airlines, aircraft builders, and government?
I think
Three minutes.
Yeah, it's about balance. We have to try. we have to try. No, seriously, it's one of the biggest challenges that we have right now. I want to try to find that balance. There's a huge demand for travel, a huge demand for travel, especially within this region. The question is, how can we do it sustainably? How can we do it by and reduce the impact that we're having? These are some of the things we discussed in START as an example. How that we're looking at sustainable aviation fuels as an example, and how we can reduce our carbon footprint even as the demand for travel continues. So it's finding that balance. It's not easy. We're getting a lot of cooperation from the airlines. The airlines are investing in sustainable aviation fuel as well. They are far more efficient aircraft, lower noise aircraft that are coming out as well. So we're hoping down the road we'll be able to strike that balance.
Perfect, thank you. Kind of a follow-up to that again, because the airport does build so much, how much does, green building techniques kind of, fill into that? That
is extremely important to us. As a matter of fact, any project that we're doing right now over a certain dollar amount goes through what we call a sustainability framework. It will cost us more, but we think it's actually the right thing to do. So how much can we build these facilities and build them in a more sustainable manner? And we're looking at everything, whether it's embodied carbon, and how we reduce that during the construction and after. We look at the entire life cycle of the building, whether we use LEDs, solar panels, etc. For example, the facility that we just showed on the North Satellite, there's 2 huge tanks under that facility where you capture rainwater and you recycle that water to flush toilets, etc. So sustainability in our construction is extremely important.
Perfect, thank you. This is a follow-up kind of to the SEA app. Why isn't the checkpoint reservation available directly through the app? And why do you have to go through a website instead? Is there a reason behind that, or?
We wanted to make it such that you do not have to download an app if you wanted to use it. You didn't have to subscribe to anything if you wanted to use it. You didn't have to sign up for anything, right? So we wanted to make it as easy and as convenient as possible. So when you book your ticket, the airlines will send you a link. You click on that link, or when you come to the airport, you just click on it, you point to the QR code with your phone, and you can do it without having to sign up. So we wanted to make it as convenient as possible, and it's free, so yeah.
Perfect. As a side note, my mother-in-law just visited us from Colorado. First time we saw her in 2 years, and she did it. And then a friend of ours has pre-check, and so they raced each other to see who would get through the checkpoint first. And my mother-in-law, with the Save Your Spot, got through faster than pre-check. So that was a fun experiment. And last question here, and then I'll just do another final call for questions because I just have one more here. How will the airport manage soon-to-come small electric-powered taxi service? So, those kind of, in-air taxi services. So kind of those short hauls from, home or business.
Yes, I think they're talking about VTOLs or eVTOLs, right?
Right,
So
right.
yes, that's something we have been looking at. We're looking at, okay, when we get to that space, where would, for example, would we accommodate it? We're looking at, for example, a parking garage as an example, because we probably have less and less people parking. Could we use that? Well, we have gone into a lot of details. For example, well, if we use a parking garage, there's a problem because we can't get fire trucks up there in case there is an issue. So we have people like Tim Tober that's working very closely with the industry in the region. And we think at some point in time, for example, the short haul is we're going to be using those electric vertical takeoff vehicles to move people back and forth, say between downtown and here as an example, or to some neighboring cities and here as an example. So that's something we've been working very closely with the industry. We're looking for it. Again, it's electric, and it falls right in line with our greenest port strategy.
Perfect. Well, great. Well, thank you so much, Lance, for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Perfect. Again, just want to also thank our sponsors again one last time. Of course, our host, the Port of Seattle and SeaTac Airport. Thank you to Alaska Airlines, to Teacup, to Wings Financial Credit Union, Workforce Development Council of Seattle, South King Media, Crane Photography, and again, just really, really appreciate all your help and all your support. Perfect.